everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Welcome to episode 4 of my podcast. I'm filming this in the middle of the day actually because I feel like whenever I do want to film these episodes, it's like at night, but I'm also really lazy and tired, and I don't feel like setting up the whole thing, grabbing my mic, doing the whole thing. So I figured, you know what, I'm filming today, just a vlog. So I thought I would take a little bit of a break and I would film a podcast episode because it's been basically a month since my last one. So honestly, you could just expect to see these videos like once a month. This episode is going to be about fan fiction, but first, before we get into it, I do want to ask your guys' opinions or like get your advice, I guess, on what my next episode should be, because I don't really have anything planned for the next episode. I think I might talk about tattoos that I want. I kind of want to play on the TikTok trend that it is like things I wanted to buy this week, but I didn't. I kind of want to do that. So I think it might be like a tattoo and that kind of video together. I don't know. But let me know if you have any other podcast video ideas, or if there's like a topic that you want me to discuss or something, let me know. But today we're talking about fan fiction. I have some fan fiction in my hand that I read when I was a teenager. So we're going to go through this. So I kind of wanted to start out by talking about my opinions on fan fiction, how I feel about it, if I like it, all that jazz. So I feel like fan fiction nowadays is very popular, very talked about. It is in the media. Journalists and interviewers are talking about fan fiction all the time. It is just very much a thing. But back in my day, when I was reading fan fiction, you did not talk about fan fiction. You did not talk about that you read fan fiction. You didn't share what fanfics you were reading. Back in the day, fan fiction was genuinely between you and God. Like, you did not discuss or even acknowledge that fan fiction existed back in the day. But now it is very much like in pop culture, which I am going to be honest, I hate. I also want to state I love fan fiction. I think fan fiction is great. I love that it can give writers the opportunity to learn how to write stories, how to get better at writing in general, how to do storytelling. I obviously have benefited from fan fiction in the past, so I don't have anything bad to say about fan fiction itself. I think more so my opinions about fan fiction are when it comes to pop culture and the way that the media portrays fan fiction. That is my issue. I feel like this is something, especially with the rise, obviously, of heated rivalry. I feel like right now, for some reason, people really feel the need to comment on fan fiction and about what fan fictions are popular and what authors are writing about. And it's just very weird because obviously I grew up in that era where you didn't talk about fan fiction, you didn't acknowledge it. So it is interesting to see that change. And I think, unfortunately, the internet has become not necessarily a super safe space for fandoms in general. I feel like because, we now have the Twitter For You page, which never existed, obviously, back in the day. So you can just kind of come across random things on your For You page, which then can obviously create discourse. And if you're in a certain fandom or something, you can always see things from other fandoms. You can see what's happening within a fandom. There is a lack of anonymity on the internet when it comes to fandoms. I feel like there is not really that safe space anymore because, unfortunately, everything now on the internet can spread very quickly, and it can spread widely, I guess. And so I've seen so many articles, especially in Heated Rivalry and The Pit. I'll get to that in a second, but especially with Heated Rivalry, I've seen literally articles linking direct fan fictions. And I've seen, I think it was the New Yorker, to be quite honest, they literally linked actual fan fictions, and they did not ask these fanfiction authors if that was okay. And I believe there was one fanfic author that tried to reach out to them to say, hey, can you take my link down? Like, I don't want people finding this fanfic. I think they just ignored that author's message. But that is kind of like, I think we're kind of a little bit losing the plot when it comes to like linking things without asking the author's consent. And I get it, you're putting out fan fiction and it's supposed to be anonymous, but you should still be asking people to use something that they post online. You know what I mean? Like if I tweeted something and somebody was using my tweet in an article, like I kind of wish they would have asked me for that. Like just because I'm putting it out there for free doesn't mean you can just like link it to something else without my consent. You know what I mean? And I feel like in a way we've kind of twisted the internet to be like, you don't have to ask for consent for that because it's online and it's out there. I think that's a little backwards. You should be asking. This is like the same thing on like TikTok. When TikTok dances used to be a thing, like everybody would be like, hey, credit the original dancer, credit the original TikTok. I feel like we've lost that in the sauce here. We've lost the way to like credit people, but also to ask for permission regarding those things. I personally think it's really gross when interviewers or journalists link fan fictions or fan art and they don't ask the artist for permission. I just think it's wrong. I don't agree with that. And again, this is something that fan fiction has been around for years and years and years and years. It's never going to go away. It's a thing, right? Fan fiction is there, but unfortunately, it's lost its like private, secure little fandom circle. And like I don't think I blame like really popular books that were fan fictions, like 50 Shades of Grey was technically a Twilight fan fiction. The After series by Anna Todd was a One Direction fan fiction. Those books are very popular. They've had movies. And I don't think that they affected fan fiction whatsoever. I think that was like a positive thing for fan fiction to be like, oh, you could have your fan fiction be published and become a TV show or a movie. I mean, Alchemized is kind of an example of that. Alchemized by Sin Lin Yu was a fan fiction on AO3. It's called A Manacled. It's a Harry Potter fan fiction. It was rewritten and revised, I guess, and published as Alchemized, and it is in the works to become a movie. So to me, like that's the positive spin on fan fiction. I think that's great. You know, this young writer who was writing as a hobby, who had so much success on this fan fiction website, was then able to publish their book and then it's going to become a movie. You know, that is a great thing, but then it also does, I guess, kind of open up fan fiction. It doesn't make it niche anymore. You know what I mean? Like fan fiction is now out in the open, and I'm sure there are some fanfic authors out there who do dream of writing a super successful fanfic that does become traditionally published and then maybe has like a TV show or a movie. Like I'm sure there are authors out there that's their dream. There are definitely some positives and negatives when it comes to fan fiction. Something else that I find really, really disturbing is when journalists or interviewers, specifically, we're going to talk about the pit, okay? There was this journalist that, or interviewer, whatever you want to call them, they were interviewing Noah Wyle, and I guess this interviewer showed Noah Wyle this fan art of Dr. Abbott and Dr. Robbie, and it was like sexual, kind of like a sexual fan art. And they basically just wanted to get like Noah Wyle's reaction to this fan art. And again, they didn't ask the artist if they could show Noah Wyle the picture. They didn't ask, I don't think they gave the artist credit. I'm not exactly sure, so don't quote me on that one. But I do remember seeing the artist online feel like super embarrassed and be like, I didn't expect that, Noah Wyle would see this. Like, I feel really gross about it. And issue with this because, again, this feels like this interviewer kind of invaded a fandom space, which I don't like. I understand that because things are on the internet, you think that you can just like steal that, take that, do whatever you want with it. But at the end of the day, like that was not yours to show somebody else. You know what I mean? It's different if like that artist themselves got to meet Noah Wyle and said, look at this, like I did this, look at this. That's different. Like I don't really know exactly how to state my point or like what I'm trying to get at. But I just think we've lost that like etiquette when it comes to fandoms and what we should keep to ourselves as a fandom versus what should be shared with the public, I guess. I've had this like situation happen to me before that made me like super duper uncomfortable because it wasn't anything bad. But when I first started my channel, I used to do this series called Author Spotlight, and basically I would pick an author that I've read a lot of books from, and I would just talk about that author, talk about my favorite books that they've written, the ones that like I didn't love that much, and like my recommended reading order. I would basically just make this whole video about the author. And there was one particular author that I made this video about. Whenever I'm like talking negatively about a book or about an author, like I try to keep it pretty like positive, pretty clean. Like I never try to bash an author or bash a book. You know, I try to keep it very respectful. And if I do have criticism, like I try to keep it to be very like valid and not anything that's like harmful, I guess. So I don't think I said anything like mean or like hateful in this certain author spotlight video. However, a few days after I had posted this video, this author went on their Instagram and literally posted a recommended reading order. Then I saw, I think, a comment or two on their like Facebook page talking about my video. It wasn't like the author themselves talking about my video. It was like other readers and like I guess people who saw my video and then told other people about it. Yeah, then this author went on their Instagram and like posted a recommended reading order of like how you should read their books. And it just felt like it was very much targeted towards me. And I mean, obviously I could be like totally delusional, but it like was literally a day or two after I posted my video. And this author is not super famous. Like they're an indie author. Well, I think they now have some books traditionally published, but they were like an indie author. They weren't really that big back then. And that is why I stopped making those author spotlight videos, because I was like, oh shit, like this author saw this video. They obviously didn't agree with like the recommended reading order, and they possibly didn't agree with what I said, which is fine, obviously, but I just felt uncomfortable the fact that this author possibly watched the video and didn't like what I had to say. And again, that video was like positive. Like I have read a majority of that author's books, and they have a lot of books out, and I read almost all of them. So it felt very weird. I basically felt like they were subtweeting me in a way, if that makes sense. I didn't like that situation, so I stopped doing my author spotlight videos because that happened, and I didn't want to possibly have another situation like that. What I'm trying to say is I really hate that fandoms have kind of been infiltrated by interviewers and journalists, and they always feel the need to comment on something that they are not a part of. I think that's also my issue too. Like for the New Yorker, when they were linking or I've seen this again. There was another article that was talking about heated rivalry fan fiction and how they felt uncomfortable, I guess, because somebody wrote a fan fiction about how like Shane was the top instead and how like bad that is or whatever. And I'm like, it's literally a fan fiction. It's nothing to take so seriously. It's a fan fiction. It's meant to be fun. It's meant for fans. It's meant for the fandom. And when you have these journalists poking their nose into it, it's not fun. It honestly really makes me angry when I see articles linking exact fan fictions and like shitting on them or talking about them, or like I don't mind when people recommend fan fictions, because I think, you know, sometimes when you're looking for something specific, you're like, oh, I need a fanfic like this for this couple, and then people recommend you some, and that's great. Love that. I'm getting really tired of these people who are not in fandoms. You're not in a fandom space. Why are you speaking on things that you do not understand? That you don't get it. You're not in the fandom, so how are you supposed to understand? I love fan fiction. I think it's great. I hate the way that media villainizes it for some reason. I don't know why. Again, they're not in fandom, so they just don't understand. But anyways, we're going to talk about fan fictions that I read back in my teen years. So back in the day, I used to read fan fiction on fanfiction.net. This was the website for fan fiction back in the day. I don't even know if AO3 must have existed, but I didn't know about it. I believe there was also like another fan fiction website. I think it was like fanfiction.com, or might have been like fanfiction.ca or something like that. But these ones are from fanfiction.net. This was also before I had a cell phone. This fan fiction I printed, all of these were from 2012. This first one was March 27th, 2012. I printed this at 8:05 in the morning, which is crazy. So this is before we had cell phones. So I would print a few chapters so I could read these chapters on the bus to and from school. I had about like a 30-minute drive from school. So I would print fan fictions so I could read them on the bus. And then obviously when I got home, I would like continue the fan fiction on my computer, but I would just print a few chapters so that I could read it on the bus. And honestly, I think I printed most of these at my actual school, which we were not allowed to do. But of course, I did it. I think my parents would have been furious with me if I printed this all at home. So I think I printed this at school. I have about 5 different fan fictions here, so we're going to go through them. The first fan fiction is called My Life Without You. And this is a Stefan Salvatore and Elena Gilbert fanfiction from the Vampire Diaries. So this was my Vampire Diaries phase. This was, I believe, I think around when season 3 was coming out, or it was out. I actually don't fully remember. So I was reading this fanfiction after season 3 aired, or actually even before season 3 aired. That's actually crazy because the last episode of season 3 was May 2012, May 10th. And I was reading this fan fiction while season 3 was airing, which is crazy. Anyways, so yeah, I obviously have been a huge Stelena fan. They were my OTP. I loved Stelena so much. And yeah, this was the one fan fiction that I read, My Life Without You. And actually, I did look up these fanfics the other day, and this one is still on fanfiction.net. It still exists. Basically, the summary for this one is, I guess it just says, what would you do if the one person you needed more than anyone, the one person who could be there for you, was the one person you thought you hated the most? No vampires or other supernatural beings. I don't remember my feelings on this fanfiction, to be honest. Like, I am kind of low-key interested on like rereading it because it still exists on fanfiction.net. It's still there. So I am kind of intrigued to possibly reread it. I don't remember anything from the fanfic itself. I do remember loving the Vampire Diary ones that I have read. So I'm pretty positive I loved this one. I have chapter 13 and chapter 14 printed, which is what I read on the bus. And then I probably finished the fanfiction when I got home and then started another one. But yeah, this was one of the first ones that I ever read. And then the next one I read was Until This Lie Do Us Part, which again is another Stefan and Elena fanfiction. The summary on this one is, it just says on here, you are supposed to get married because you are in love, but for Stefan, marriage was just a means to an end. I think also these fanfictions ended up happy, I think. I don't remember, but I do remember really liking this one. I think there was also like a second part to this fanfic. But yeah, I think I only have chapter 35 here, so I definitely finished it after, oh, this one I read first because this one is March 26th. And then I read My Life Without You. But this was also by the same fanfic author, which is by TBD Vampire. I will link these two down below because they still exist. They're still there. So if you want to experience some fanfictions from fanfiction.net, I will link those both down below. I am kind of low-key wanting to reread them. Kind of just for nostalgic reasons, you know. Then I have two other fanfictions, and these ones are One Tree Hill fanfiction. These are Nathan and Haley fanfictions. I loved them. And this was, again, 2012. I believe this was probably when the show had ended. Actually, let me confirm that. So One Tree Hill ended in April of 2012, and I was reading these fanfictions in June of 2012. So that matches up. I obviously was clearly missing Nathan and Haley, so I read some fanfictions. The first one was With or Without You. Unfortunately, this fanfiction is no longer on fanfiction.net. I cannot find it anywhere. I tried multiple times to find it. It is no longer there. So I don't even know what the summary of this one is. I literally just have chapter 31. I have chapter 31, chapter 46, and that's it. I literally just have chapter 31 and 46. And I think this one I printed at school because it's in color. I have no idea what this fanfiction was because I can't find it anywhere online. So I can't even find the summary of the fanfic, which is kind of upsetting. Like, I really wish the author would have left it on there. But I think it follows like Nathan and Haley in like the early days, the early seasons. And then the last one that I have is called Far Away. This one I could not find anywhere either. I guess the author is Cat0507. Oh, it was the same author that did With or Without You. Okay, love that. I would tend to kind of stick to the same fanfic authors, but yeah, the other one was Far Away. And again, it was a Nathan and Haley one. Don't remember this one. Oh, I wish it was still linked. Like, I would definitely go back and read these too, because I just think it would be so nostalgic and fun. Did I say June earlier? I read these both in May of 2012. Again, printed them at like 8:05 in the morning. Like, what am I, 7:56 in the morning? Like, what am I doing? Printing these early in the morning, but I probably printed them before I got on the bus to school. But yeah, I remember loving fan fiction back in the day, specifically these ones. Like, I do remember loving these so much. I was like addicted. I had to read them on the bus, like, of course. And I can't believe that I've kept these fan fictions for so long. Like, I've literally just had these in my closet, like with a bunch of like random other papers and like keepsake things. I've just kept these for so many years, and I'm honestly so happy that I have these because it is so fun to look back on it, especially like fanfiction.net. Like, that's crazy. That feels so ancient. I don't think anybody actually writes on fanfiction.net anymore. Oh, there are people. There are people on here. I see somebody just published something like 2 minutes ago, 12 minutes ago, 20 minutes ago. Oh, I see a Harry Potter fanfiction on here. Okay, and that was posted 2 hours ago. Oh, I see another fanfiction one, or I see another Harry Potter one as well, published 3 hours ago. Interesting. I wonder if there's any like heated rivalry on here. There is not. I'm sure everybody who's writing. Oh, there's a Scott and Kip one. Oh my God, it was published in 2005? No, wait, that can't be right. Oh my God, I'm so stupid. I'm so stupid. It says 2025. I don't know why I read that. It was like 2005. I was like, oh my God, what? The books hadn't even come out then. Okay, so somebody did publish some fan fiction here for Heated Rivalry, Scott and Kip, in December. That's fun. But I think that's kind of it. Oh, there's another one. This one was posted in December as well. Only 4 chapters. Okay, so I guess people are still using fanfiction.net, which is really interesting because I feel like AO3 is the fanfiction capital. I feel like that is where you go for fanfics. Maybe if you want to be like completely anonymous, you would post on fanfic.net. I feel like that is maybe where it's at to be completely secretive. I feel like there would be way more privacy on fanfic.net than there would be on AO3. So obviously I was reading fanfiction back in 2012. You're probably wondering, have I read more since then? What is my relationship to fanfiction now? To be quite honest, I don't dabble in fanfiction. I did kind of go through a period where I was like thinking about reading some fan fictions, especially there were some like very popular Harry Potter ones that everybody always talked about, like Manacled, and there was like The Auction. I think there was another one, but those eventually became traditionally published. So I kind of just decided to stick with the traditionally published version instead of reading the fanfic. So I did think about it for a while to start getting into fan fiction, but then I just never really got into it. And with Heated Rivalry, I honestly did think that I was going to dabble in fan fiction because I love Shane and Ilya so much and like I just need more of them. So I was thinking about maybe dabbling into some fanfics. I just feel like I don't really know where to begin because there are so many Holland fanfics on AO3. Like there are so many, and I would have no idea where to start. I know that there's a really popular one that stopped because the author was getting bullied, unfortunately, which also I think is like a huge mistake for like these fanfiction websites to have a comment section. Like unfortunately, I feel like fan fiction, because it's written by a fan, consumed by fans, there really shouldn't be like a place where you can comment to be like, oh, I hated this, or like, you should have written it like this. Like, I just feel like there shouldn't be a comment section at all. I understand like for some people it is like hopefully to get positive feedback or to get like valid criticism. But in a weird way, I feel like it probably just creates more problems than it helps, to be quite honest. I mean, the fanfic that I was talking about, Wolfbird, I think, they had a very, very popular fanfic. I think it was like #1, and they stopped writing because they were getting bullied, which is awful. So, that's obviously a downside to fanfiction. If a fanfic is not going the way that the readers want it to, like, obviously somebody was bullied, so that's like awful. There are negatives to fan fiction, of course, but I do think overall it's really fun, and I think it's something that can feed creativity for a fandom, if that makes sense. So I'm all for fan fiction. Honestly, I'm kind of scared to get into fan fiction because I fear that if I do get into it, it will be hard to pull me out of it. I think that's also my thing, is like, I would love to read Shane and Ilya fanfiction, but I feel like once I cross that line, I'm not going to actually be reading actual books. You know what I mean? And I need to be reading actual books. I have a million that I need to read, and I can't just be consuming fanfiction. Even though there's nothing wrong with just reading fanfiction, I do want to state that as well. Like, if the only reading you ever do is fan fiction, like that's fine. It's a hobby, it's fun, it's nothing to be taken serious. But obviously, like, a part of what I do is reading books and talking about books. So I do need to actually read books. There is also kind of this question on if you can talk about fan fiction. I haven't really seen many booktubers talk about fan fiction or like reading fan fiction. Like obviously I've seen people like read Manacled, but I haven't really like dived too much into that. If you are allowed to review fan fiction, I don't think you are. I think like genuinely you're just supposed to consume that as like a hobby, nothing that is supposed to like count towards your reading goals of the year, or you're not supposed to technically like review it, because I mean at the end of the day it's a fanfic, so the author is not paid to write that. It's a hobby. It's something that this author is doing in their spare time. They don't get paid for it. I personally wouldn't feel right like reviewing a fanfic anyways. I probably would just say like, oh yeah, I liked it, I recommend it, or like it wasn't really my thing, and like move on. I don't think I would like dive into the fanfic and like give like a thorough review. I just don't think that that's right to begin with. Let's just say if I were to read a fanfic, would I be able to talk about that in a wrap-up video? Would I be able to mention that I read the fanfiction? Because like I do see myself possibly diving into Shane and Ilya fanfics. Do I talk about them? Do I just not say anything? Or do I mention that I read it and like either if I liked it or not and then like move on? Or do we just pretend fanfiction does not exist? You know what I mean? Because there are some fanfics I am intrigued to read, and one night I might just really miss Shane and Ilya and I might just dive into fanfic. Because right now that's like the only fandom that I can see myself reading fanfics from at the moment anyways. And maybe some like old classic Vampire Diaries fanfics. I feel like I could get back into that maybe. But yeah, that is basically my relationship with fanfiction. That is my feelings on fanfiction, the fanfictions that I read back in the day. Let me know what the first fanfiction you ever read was. And obviously, if you have some good fanfic recommendations, please send them my way. But yeah, let me know all of your thoughts on fanfiction and let me know any topics that you want me to discuss in a possible future podcast episode. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye.